Good morning, good afternoon. Um, Welcome to the ICT for Ag breakout session on building domestic capacity for frontier technologies, insights from the YEESI Lab in Tanzania. My name is Amol with the AgTech Network, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Kadege. Yes, I'm joined by my friend and colleague Kadege, and we have we put together this breakout session for you. Before we get started, we have a little bit of housekeeping, but mostly about asking questions. We hope to have a engaging session today. Unfortunately, we won't be able to hear you or see you, but we encourage you to please ask questions in the Q&A box below. I'll give a short overview or introduction to the digital agriculture ecosystem for Tanzania report that we have written with USAID, and how we came to know how we came to know about YEESI and the great work that they're doing in Tanzania. I'll then invite Kadege to give an introduction and an overview to the YEESI Lab. And finally, we'll share some lessons of what a few things which have and have not worked so well in building domestic capacity for frontier technologies in agriculture. And then we'll open the floor for Q&A. But again, please don't wait to the end of the breakout to ask your questions. Please jump in anytime with asking them. So before we get into the meat of the presentation, we felt we should let you know who the AgTech Network is. We are one of the first digital development consultancy exclusively focused on the intersection of agriculture, digital technology, climate, and financial inclusion. So we solve a host of problems at that intersection. And we're excited about frontier technology because it really helps us accelerate the great work that can be done in this area. We've seen up until now how digital technology can really accelerate agriculture, climate resilience, mitigation, and financial inclusion. But it's frontier technologies like AI and satellite imagery and other things that we'll be talking about that can really accelerate the work and the impact that can be done in these areas to support smallholder farmers. Now, a bit about this report, where we have outlined a case study on YEESI. It's the Digital Agriculture Ecosystem Assessment for Tanzania that we wrote alongside DAI with the support of USAID and the partnership with USAID. And the objective of this assessment was to map relevant actors within the digital agriculture ecosystem in Tanzania, to identify the challenges and opportunities for effective digital technology adoption in the agriculture sector in Tanzania, and to assess the specific challenges and opportunities for Tanzanian women and youth, in particular, in digital agriculture. And you'll find the YEESI case study on page 44, and the work YEESI has done really ties into some of the key findings and recommendations in sections 6 and 7, which touch on building the domestic R&D capacity for frontier technology within the agriculture sector. We have seen that in many markets, it is key to unleashing the potential of the startup sector, key to attracting more investment. But we'll get into that a bit more with Kadege and the overview of YEESI. But before we go into that, we'd like to try to engage the audience a bit on a poll question. And you should see a poll pop up in a minute, or Jewu, maybe you could let us, yes, I think, yeah, you should see this poll that popped up in the middle. Would appreciate you taking a minute to take a look. Of the following frontier technologies, which two do you feel will most revolutionize smallholder agriculture in the next 5 years? There's artificial intelligence, drones and UAVs, robotics, machine vision, natural language processing. And apologies if your favorite frontier technology is not listed there. We've seen various conflicting definitions of frontier technology, and this is what we have landed on. I'll give it maybe, we have about 40 seconds or so before the poll will automatically end. So we'll give you balance of the time to reflect on that question. I think we'll end the polls. I see there's a few more folks still putting in the last votes. Let's get the last ones in, please, and it'll end just another 5 seconds. Great, thank you so much. We have a second one. Yeah, let's get to the second one. Okay, yeah, your second one hopefully has popped up. The second one is, based on your answer to the previous question on those two selections, what do you feel are the top barriers preventing or impeding digital agriculture service providers, like startups, governments, or NGOs, from incorporating those frontier technologies in their services? And for this, you can select all, which apply. There's no limit. And I hope that poll question is, okay, it should be up now. Okay, I see a few of you guys starting to answer. We'll give it another minute or so. And sorry, I'll go through some of these options. So there's cost and affordability. So for example, digital agriculture service providers may incur too high costs for licensing or acquiring that technology from sources, which could be overseas. Some of the skills or some of the staff available domestically to maintain and develop that technology might not be available, or might be working on other projects outside of digital agriculture. Some of the available services might not comply with local data privacy and security regulations. Could be other regulatory hurdles, or simply the availability that they're there in the world, but not available in your market. Great, thank you so much for participating in that question. We'll come back and show these results and reflect on them towards the end of our breakout. For now, I'd like to introduce Dr. Kidege from the YEESI Lab in Tanzania to give us an introduction and overview of the great work that YEESI is doing to building the capacity of the Tanzanian ecosystem to develop, launch, and scale frontier technologies within digital agriculture. Good morning, Kidege.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, everyone. From Tanzania, I work for Sokoine University of Agriculture. I'm here to present lessons from YEESI Lab that we established at SUA. So what is YEESI Lab? So YEESI Lab particularly is a specialized lab inside our main lab, which is Electronics and Precision Agriculture Lab. And this is a specialized lab for youth. So it was more, the name is Morogoro Youth Empowerment through establishment of Social Innovation Lab for problem-centered training machine vision. So our focus here was to train youth and to train students specifically for machine vision. Currently, we don't have like courses or programs that teach exclusively, for example, artificial intelligence. By that time, 2020, when we were proposing this, we didn't have such kind of initiatives. So next. So we had to establish this lab, and you see students inside our lab, student in a hackathon. So what we did is to train students, and then after training the students in problem-centered. So this is not a normal way of teaching, like you have a lecture or you have something like that, or you have somebody who is training you like how the university do. And this is problem-centered, like we have a problem and we try now to solve it. So in order to solve it using, for example, machine vision or artificial intelligence, then we kind of learn which technologies can be applied to this problem. Because we have this problem, we need to solve. For example, we want to detect diseases, or we want to detect pests, or we want to detect something. And we have a data, cultural data. We want to check somebody who can get a loan from a bank. And this maybe is a farmer or some, which information can lead that to get that. So you learn by that, and it's then they share together, and then they participate, and then we have hackathon. After learning certain technologies, you can have hackathon to solve another problem, which is likely being almost the same like the other problem. Next. So where is the problem, and why did we want to come up with this idea? First, in Tanzania, especially in Africa, there is no connection between ag specialists. For example, we're talking about extensionists, we're talking about farmers, and also we don't have connection with sensor developers who are mainly working at the universities, and also data scientists who are working in few private companies, but most of them actually are based at the universities. Everybody's working in isolation. So farmers and ag specialists who are generating data, they can communicate with very few data scientists that we have who need data now to train information. And now, and even the data that is generated is not that good, because we have very few sensor development technologies. For example, we don't have specifically low cost machines, for example, imaging machines, for example, spectral technology imaging, thermal imaging, fluorescence, transmittance images. These are technologies that are available in most developed countries, but they're not available here. But you should remember that also Africa is participating in solving some of the Sustainable Development Goals 2, 5, 12, 13, and 15, which we're targeting right here. Next. So because we have a problem, everybody is trying to solve. So everybody takes a different approach. For example, detection of diseases and pests using handheld camera. We know in most of the countries now they're developing platforms like robotics that can scan the farm. But this kind of technologies is kind of expensive for smallholder farmers. So we solve the problem, we get solution on this. For example, some of the diseases from YEESI Lab we can detect. But the question comes, do we expect farmers to walk around with the cameras, taking images and understanding what could be the disease? Because the farm can be 2 acres. So a farmer will be going there maybe every day or after 2 days. What is the problem? Now, can we maybe deploy, for example, IoT devices and leave them over there? Do we expect a farmer who owns 2 to 5 acre farm to deploy such fancy devices on the farm? It's possible for somebody who has 100 acres, 200 acres, they can buy this IoT information, get all those kind of information from there. Now, there are some of the technologies that are advancing right now. We have satellite data, satellite information from, we have very good satellites provide good information, but the resolution also comes in with a lot of cost. The resolution for small farms is not covered well, for example, with Sentinel, Lancet, and these are kind of very powerful satellites. Now we can use drone. Drone maybe can be owned by a group of farmers, but still we have very low number of research around these technologies. So we are trying to solve and looking on such kind of issues and looking on how the data, for example, the satellite data needs processing units, and these units are very, very expensive, and we don't have that. So we had to buy from the funding. Actually, we had to buy a computing node, but that computing node is not enough, especially if you want to process satellite data. So we kind of have very important information, because out of analyzing data, we really need to solve or actuate. Actuate means you take action. For example, you found out there is a disease. How are you going to spray? You found out there is a need to apply fertilizer. How are you going to know exactly which area? Because here we're talking about precision agriculture. Which area, and by using which technology, that can be affordable for smallholder farmers. Yeah, let's go next. So, as I said, machine vision is kind of very new and very unique, and we had to do very unique approach, which is not common from the normal African university, how they do training, the problem-centered training. So why did we do this? We are targeting problem-based training. Like, we have a problems. These are the problems. How are we going to solve? Like, for normal issues, for example, if it's an engine, instead of having a lecture explaining which kind of spanner sizes and talk about that for the whole day, instead we have an engine, and this engine cannot operate. How are we going to open the engine? Then bring the spanner number 5, and we have several, but you can use this for this to open here. You can use this number to open this, and then you go on learning like that. Another thing is to recruit students and youth. So we are looking around getting male students, female students, and also underrepresented groups, to make sure like our lab becomes rich with people like of different kind of backgrounds. And those who are in school, and some were coming from out of school. There's those who are graduates. We have a lot of graduates who do not have work, or do not work, or they don't have any kind of job or somewhere working. So we included them, make sure like they can participate in this. So because our target is make sure like we innovate and we inspire youth to start their own companies. And this is the target of YEESI Lab. So we need to inspire them to make sure like we work with the industry. We try to invite people from the industry and work with them to become innovative, and then make sure like if they're developing companies, develop companies that are inclusive. So for them to understand inclusion, we had to also invite people from human resource, for example, management experts, to train how you can recruit people, how you can find talents, and how you can understand talents, how different gender can provide different value to your company. So we had that, and most of this training was using online platform, Zoom, Moodle, and such kind of training. Next. So with that, then you prepare hackathon to make sure like if you can win hackathon. For example, we had students who were winning the hackathon, and one day, I think 2 of the hackathon were won by a female student from our lab. So we understood like actually the idea of inclusion, and make sure like we include everybody in our initiative. It was successful because with the problem-based learning, you can really understand if they can solve a problem that is derived by another person, and that you can get such problem by hackathon. So we did that, and also we're kind of developing data set. We encourage them to start group companies, and still they're working on this. I think by next year we'll have several companies from our lab, and we award students. You know, students and youth, they really like to be awarded, so we do that initiative too, to make sure like we come along and solve the main problem that we're targeting. So next. Okay. So this is the composition. So we had, while we were registering students, we had very few female, but there were very few, but we made sure like they're very successful, making sure like these are the best who can participate, and they were really competitive female who joined our lab. And but we had to work with them together to make sure like everybody is participating. And we had different levels of school. We had, for example, ordinary level, high school students, who are just graduates, we have certificate or diploma students and also bachelor degrees. So with all, we had various types of youth who joined our lab. Next. I talked already about this, like we had female winners from some of the hackathons, and also we use the female students and also some of the female faculty from our university to talk and work with the young secondary school girls to make sure like they can aspire to join ICT-based courses and make sure like they solve very important problems in agriculture. And also YEESI Lab had a data team, and this data team is all female data team, which was collecting data around Morogoro, making sure like we improve our lab rich information. And we use this actually to aspire, to make sure like inclusion is really important, because we have very few technocrats or technical female experts in Tanzania. So we use the female YEESI Lab data team consists of people with master's degrees, bachelor degrees, and also PhD. So it was a comprehensive team of 6 people. Next. So for this, what are the opportunities for research, for example, for collaborations in Tanzania, in East Africa? There are several, especially in agriculture here, with availability of data, especially from the satellite imagery data, and also, for example, drone technologies provide us with a great opportunity to solve a problem for the most people. Like we have so many smallholder farmers who are struggling with irrigation, fertilization, or how do you fertilize, because most of them, they don't fertilize because it's very expensive. But using precision agriculture, you can optimize your irrigation practices, or you can optimize fertilizer by using almost the same amount and getting maximum yield. How do we predict crop yield? And also, how do we monitor emergence of diseases? Most of the diseases and pests, they come by surprise. But we know most of the diseases and pests, actually, they come with they're driven by weather condition, all those kind of information. How do we deliver this information? For example, a text message to a farmer telling him or how maybe rain is coming, probably we might have a problem with the fungi diseases, kind of diseases, and also we have farm pastoral conflicts, a lot of conflicts around even my region here in Morogoro. How do we, and these conflicts, they happen because pastoralists tend to move finding for pastures, and they don't get pastures. Instead, they just find farms and they try to feed their animals, and conflict breakouts. How do we guide them to go to greener pastures instead of going to other people's farms or something like that? Digital land platform, we really know about land platform and how tiger economies were transformed by making sure like land reforms were done very good. But with digital technology, it can provide us with a good opportunity to do digital land reforms. I saw that the results actually, NLP was the most important technology. And of course, in the AI, but I know NLP belongs to AI. So NLP is really important. We need to solve the problem of natural language processing, especially with the tribal languages, resource constraint languages, for example, like Swahili language that we speak in East Africa. We have tribal language, for example. In my country, we have 120 tribes. Each tribe has their own language. How do we communicate with these farmers? And most of these farmers, they don't speak even Swahili. So we need, if it's NLP, we really need to communicate by using their local languages. And then how are we going to improve weather prediction? Weather prediction can be accurate around maybe a district level or region level or country level. But here we're talking about smallholder farmers who have 2 acres, 5 acres. How do we improve weather prediction to farm level or to a certain kind of very small region? by using maybe satellite data, by using prediction, using artificial intelligence, maybe generating data by using maybe a generative algorithm like generative adversarial networks, so kind of very, very modern artificial intelligence technologies. And how do we improve seed? For example, seed development is very slow in Tanzania, in East Africa, and generally in Africa, compared to how it happens in Europe or in America, where the speed of to make new seed for each season is very fast. But for here, for Tanzania and East Africa, it's really, really slow process. So we really need to improve by using artificial intelligence. How do we do crop phenomics to make sure like genetic data and phenomic data can be analyzed using artificial intelligence and fasten this problem and fasten the development. Next. I think this is the last thing that we're doing actually with the YEESI Lab and the EPA Lab, Electronics Precision Agriculture Lab. We're working on precision irrigation controllers. We are also working on agro-advisory systems to advise farmers. And also the YEESI Lab, which is the particular that we're talking about, machine vision, social innovations, to make sure like many people can participate and being included in the initiative and make sure like we are not left behind. Because if we don't do this, most likely there will be, we have digital divide, but most likely now you can see artificial intelligence divide, where there's countries where there are very advanced technologies, where there's other countries who do not have even such technologies, and they cannot even progress well if they cannot own such technologies. Precision irrigation scheduling, precision fertilization, we have low cost, we are developing even low-cost multi-purpose high-throughput phenotyping platforms. We're working on digital evaluation monitoring. We are working on farm performance and early warning systems, farm risk estimation for insurance by using satellite data. So we have such kind of technologies. We're looking for collaboration from other countries, especially developing countries, developed countries also who have advanced technologies on this, and how we can leverage this and target the smallholder farmers who are many in Africa. Thank you. Next. I think this is the last slide. We get funding. We get funded from the USA, who are funding YEESI Lab, exclusive YEESI Lab, but also for the other initiative that we are doing in artificial intelligence, in digital technologies. We have UKRI, we have Global Challenges, we have USDA, we have German, we have the government of Tanzania, UNESCO, and African Research University Alliance. Next. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Kadege, for great. Thank you so much, Kadege, for walking us through all the great work that YEESI has been doing and is doing. Now we have a few minutes for some Q&A. Before we get to some of the audience questions, I might take the liberty of starting out with one or two. First one, Kadege, is about maybe looking back. So if YEESI started in about 2021, digital agriculture in Tanzania has been going on for more than a decade before that, starting out with basic SMS advisories. So digital agriculture services have been on offer in Tanzania for more than a decade before YEESI started, but frontier technology not so much. And I wonder how you might describe what that capacity for frontier technology looked like, or what existed in Tanzania before YEESI got started in 2021. So I wonder if you could paint a bit of a picture of what that looked like when YEESI was getting started.
Yeah, we had several initiatives on machine learning, especially on analyzing banking data, for example, for farmers, and making sure like they get loans. But also we had initiatives on we didn't have initiative particularly directly on machine vision as machine vision, But we had initiative, especially on analyzing data using machine learning technology, make sure like we get some of the information. And we had a few companies that were working with farmers, especially to analyze their crop data, analyzing environmental data, and advise them. But with the YEESI Lab, we came up with a machine vision, which is exclusive, which was not directly targeted. And, machine vision is a very new technology. Even for the breakout of, for example, for deep learning and such kind, it was just 2011 started. So by 2000, it was only 9 years for the whole world since AlexNet technology. So we are kind of it's a very new initiative, and we're looking forward actually to improve how we do, how we improve the technology that is operating in Tanzania.
So there were some things happening before YEESI.
Yes.
But
Yes,
with
for sure.
YEESI, that work is you're able to add to it with machine vision and some other domains and even accelerate
Yes.
all of that.
Yeah.
Great, great. So then looking ahead, what would you like the domestic capacity for frontier technology to look like in Tanzania in, say, 5 years or 10 years, or at whatever stage do you think would you start to maybe point to some meaningful successes more than winning hackathons and more than winning funding, which is all great and important. But yeah, I wonder if you can share some ideas of what some more positive longer term outcomes might look like.
Yeah. I think the progress will be great because we have good number of startups that are working on that. I believe in startups. And so we have startups working, for example, natural language processing, and they're trying to develop different technologies on Swahili language. But also we have startups that are working to improve financial institutions, especially on insurance and issues with credit. And they're using artificial intelligence by analyzing those kind of information from the farmers, from the farms, by using satellite data. So for the next 5 years to 10 years, we expect, after maybe 5 years, we expect to have a technologies that will be advising farmers directly on agricultural issues. Make sure like it's very cheap to get advisory information on how you can plant and how you can do all the farm operation and how you can harvest and how you can sell it. Because we have initiatives that are using now artificial intelligence to try making sure like they predict prices, and also they predict next good market for the next season. So farmers are now using those technologies, but they're not really readily available for them right now. For the next 5 years, we expect most of these technologies will be available for most of the farmers, and they can get access and get that advisory and make sure like they increase production.
Great, great. Speaking of that 5 year or the future looking outlook and the opportunities for startups to incorporate frontier technologies and accelerate their service provision. There's a question from the audience about funding available in Tanzania for digital agriculture or ag tech startups. Having that frontier technology capacity locally available is one key ingredient. There's other ingredients. One important ingredient is funding for that ag tech startup to hire the right machine vision or NLP specialists in Tanzania, and other things. I wonder if you speak a bit about the funding landscape, or if or what kind of challenges you see, or any reflections on that, because I appreciate we didn't really examine funding for startups specifically, but perhaps you have some reflections on that question or some observations to share. Hello, Kudege?
Yes. So we have a very big challenge, especially with the funding opportunities. But the good thing is the startup started what we call Tanzania Startup Association, and this association is now pushing on startup policy and status regulation, and so we have startups that won funding, but they won funding without even a policy, or maybe the policy was hindering the progress, or was a very big hurdle for the startup growth, especially on funding issues. So with the Tanzania Startup Association, they're now pushing on that. They have already developed, and the good thing is the government actually work with them directly, and also most of these startups, especially those who are using frontier technology or very late technology, the government had to they have the names, and also they know the founders, and also we have what we call venture capitalists. Very few which are based in Tanzania. For example, we have like Sahara Ventures and some other Anzisha Ventures. So these ventures, what they try to do is to make sure that they help startup find funding. And so the ecosystem is growing very fast, especially in Dar es Salaam. So we expect by 5 years from now, most of the startups will get money, seed money from different ventures around the world. Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned a gap there. What we have outlined a bit in the report, the Digital Agriculture Ecosystem Assessment for Tanzania report, is this funding gap that we see in markets like Kenya, Nigeria, and others. There's a lot of funding going to agtech startups. In comparison, in the funding that has gone to agtech startups in Tanzania over the past, I forget, 3 to 6 years, it wasn't really comparable to what is going to the other markets. So yeah, that startup funding is a gap. And in addition to the supply of frontier technology capacity domestically to bring the cost down, that's really important. But more work, of course, needs to be done on the funding side. Thanks so much for that question. And please keep the questions coming. We'll get to as many or until we run out of time. There's the chat button on your Zoom console. I have another question for Kidege about maybe if we zoom out in the bigger picture, why does Tanzania need its own capacity for frontier technology? There's alternatives about importing the technology, licensing it. Rather, in some contexts, it's more efficient to acquire technology from outside than build it yourself. So yeah, why do you feel it's important that Tanzania own some capacity to develop frontier technology itself?
How do you think? I think problems are localized. Most of the problems, especially in farming and some of other sectors around Tanzania, they are localized problems. And those technologies that we import, most of them, they have been designed to solve maybe problems in America or in Europe. They're not localized for Tanzania. So what we do with the initiative, because we have a lot of things going on, especially with the open source community. So we are trying to leverage those kind of technology, make sure like even Tanzania or Africa can develop their own technology that solve specialized problems in Africa or specialized problem in Tanzania. Because understanding the problem is the most important, like what I say, problem-based learning. So you understand the problem very well, and then you understand the available technologies that are available around the world, cheap and available or free and available, for example, from the open source community. And the good thing about this stuff, most of these big companies, they provide most of the technologies as open source technologies. So, but they're not that much powerful compared to what they do for commercial. But you can take from there and improve it to solve your own problem. So we are building capacity on this kind of area, and we expect if they can solve problem, then they can start companies and work on that. If they can start companies, we know there's issues with funding, so we try to work with Sahara Ventures, Azisha Ventures, to make sure like we can work together to make sure like this startup can grow and become good companies and save the Tanzanians. Yeah, thank you very much.
Great, great. We have another question about inclusion. That's one of the three themes for this year's ICT for Ag inclusion. So we know that frontier technologies bring about an opportunity for disruption, and that disruption can, go in it. It can go in a variety of directions, and in a way, for inclusion, it cuts both ways. Sometimes the disruptive technologies can increase exclusion or decrease inclusion, or if brought about the right way, it could reduce exclusion and improve inclusion. So, with regards to frontier technology for smallholder farmers, what do you feel are some of the more exciting frontier technologies that can increase inclusion?
Yeah, so with digital, we know with digital technology, it comes with digital divide. Like somebody who is running digital technology will advance, and if in case of agriculture, it means they'll produce very quality products compared to those who are not using. So even for artificial intelligence, we expect for those who will be utilizing artificial intelligence, they're going to produce very good products. For example, they can know exactly when the disease is coming, they will know exactly when the pest is coming, so they can take other initiatives which are biological instead of using, for example, chemicals. So they'll produce very quality products with high quality, right? So by doing so, smallholder farmers will be disadvantaged. So our aim here is to make sure, like, as other people are benefiting from this kind of emerging technologies, especially artificial intelligence, also smallholder farmer can get a solution that can improve their products, make sure like they are not excluded. Because if we don't do that, they'll be disadvantaged. But right now, especially with the world market of most of the products, they're already disadvantaged, I can say, like because of their products, maybe they may contain so much chemicals because they had to fight a certain kind of diseases or certain kind of pest, or they applied maybe fertilizer equally, and somebody comes in who has invested in a farm, they really understand the farm health, they understand the soil health very good, so they don't apply maybe too much fertilizer, so they produce very good product. So for this, what we're doing with our lab and other initiatives that are continuing in Tanzania is make sure like they are not excluded. So we're looking on inclusion of smallholder farmers, making sure those technologies that have been produced for large scale and small scale, medium scale, also can be used for small scale farming. Thank you very much.
Cool, cool. I think another way that those technologies and use cases that you mentioned for large farmers can be made available to smaller farmers. I think one way, and one thing that you talked about earlier in the presentation, is the use of natural language processing. If farmers who are largely less ICT literate, many of them are just not ICT literate, the ability to speak naturally to a service or engage with a service using their natural language, and even combined with voice recognition, which you spoke about before. Yeah, that could be potentially groundbreaking for making services available to folks who are less digitally literate or not very digitally literate. And then on the other side, if we look at inclusion on the other side, there's inclusion on the user's side, and then there's inclusion on the service development side and how we can engage youth in the development. You've done a lot of great work there. I wonder if there are any pitfalls or some lessons of what can go wrong when trying to engage youth.
So I think
Is that question clear?
no, it's not that much clear.
We talked about engaging or how frontier technology can be inclusive for smallholders. Those are the users of the service. When we talk about service development and service provision, how the frontier technology is developed with the programmers and other specialists.
Yes.
What you have spoken about is engaging youth to do that work, and it's a great opportunity. I wonder if you could share any challenges that have come up, or what some lessons are in terms of what has gone well in engaging youth, or what has not gone so well in engaging youth on developing the frontier technologies.
Okay, so we had a challenge actually with most youth, especially who are out of university, who do not have job, and they're no longer working at the university. We expected them to explore this area as a business opportunity for them to do it, instead of continuing, because we had to include everybody with different background. But it was not that much successful for them. Like most of them, they found out the technology to be very difficult and very challenging for them to understand how it works compared to those who are working at the university. So because for the university students, they have some years to learn first until they graduate. And if they wish to start a company, maybe it will take some time, but we expected for those who are out of school to start company. But for now, right now, we're not sure if anybody who is not at the university or who graduated a year before this year can start a company, because most of them, they found the technology being very challenging for them, very challenging to understand, very challenging to solve a problem using artificial intelligence. But for those who were in school, they were quick to learn, and also I think they had more time to do it compared to those who do not have jobs. In Tanzania, especially, or in most African countries, you can have a job or not have a job, but after graduation from university, even if you don't have formal job, you try to get other informal job. So if you have training on kind of this, for example, YEESI Lab, for them it finds like they don't have time to participate fully and understand, because it needs a lot of skills to train yourself, make sure like you get the necessary skills to solve the problem. So for them, I found out they had a very big challenge on this.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that's all the questions. Anything else could I give from your side that you want to leave the audience with? You mentioned that you're also presenting at another conference later on, I think next week.
Yes. Next week on 15th and 16th, we have an AI conference for African context that is run by the University of Dodoma and Nelson Mandela's Institution of Science and Technology. That will be based in that will be conducted in Tanzania, in Arusha. I'll be a moderator in that conference. For that, we'll discuss more what we have discussed here, and we are looking forward actually to get more collaboration from other people who are doing research in this area, making sure, because it's a big challenge to get this technology to solve for everybody. So we expect to get information, or to get some advice, and find out other people what they're doing right now, and make sure like if we can join forces, make sure like we get technologies, we can get 2 or 3 technologies successful, and make sure like maybe most of the farmers, especially smaller farmers, can benefit out of artificial intelligence. So we'll be looking on such kind of information. We'll discuss in almost every part of it. For example, how artificial intelligence increase yield, how it reduces pollution, how artificial intelligence can improve smallholder farmers' health. A lot of stuff we'll be discussing on that. Thank you very much.
Great. Final thank you to Dr. Kidege for joining us. Thank you to everybody on the Zoom. Thank you for joining. I hope you found some interesting lessons or interesting bits to use in your markets. Hope you have enjoyed the sessions so far. Today's the last day, so hope the rest of the sessions you have today are also interesting and exciting. And happy to engage with anybody who has further questions about the work that we do or the work that YEESI does. So yeah, again, thank you all for joining, and hope you guys enjoyed it and enjoyed the rest of the sessions. Bye-bye.